Hi there, welcome to the channel. Welcome back if you're a return viewer. You're watching the Christchurch Review of Books, and I'm Kerry. Today it is a Saturday morning here in Christchurch, and it is the very last day of November 2024. And as become tradition on this channel, I'm going to do a book haul for the month of November, obviously. So we have 7 books this month that have come my way. Roughly half of them are used books or second-hand books, whatever terminology you use where you are. Basically books someone else has read, sold off to a shop, and I have found them online and bought them. And we also have 3 new books which I've bought online. One from a new retailer. There is a retailer called bookhero.co.nz. I made my first order from there last week and it arrived promptly. A bit of a no-frills service so far, but I'm enjoying the ability to find new books from a different source. The website that I had been buying a lot of local books from was Mighty Ape, which is kind of like an all-encompassing online retailer here in New Zealand that started out aimed at the gamer market, but has kind of broadened out to try to become something like a mini Amazon. And it was taken over a couple of years ago by an Australian firm, and recently they've probably tried to stamp their mark on it by revamping the website and the entire online experience, and it hasn't been successful. The website was been a bit of dismal failure, and as a result I've lost my faith in buying things from them, and I tried the new one, Book Hero, which coincidentally maybe was actually founded by one of the original founders of Mighty Ape. So there you go. Anyway, the book I bought from there was this one, Better the Blood. This is a local New Zealand crime novel, crime, police, procedural, whatever you want to call it, with a twist on Maori culture. The main protagonist in this book is a detective who is a Maori, and apparently the crime in this has ties back to atrocities committed by the colonial British forces in the 1860s. And how it all ties in with the present day is apparently part of the big revelation. And there is a series, this is a series, there's at least 2 more in this series. I think the 3rd one hasn't quite been released yet. I have a growing taste for these kind of police crime drama things. I went through a phase of reading all the Scandinavian ones a few years back, and it's kind of like interesting to see how the genre has kind of evolved through the heroic American and British detectives, and then they went all grotty and grimy and integrated elements of what the popular TV detectives were doing, and then we had the Scandinavian ones with the angular prose and frequent descriptions of how day in the life of the protagonists, and this is kind of being folded back into the genre as a whole, and the New Zealanders are doing them now. Well, there's always been a tradition of crime fiction in New Zealand, but they're becoming quite big now and people are enjoying them, and I suppose it's a little something different for overseas readers to read about New Zealand life, New Zealand culture, the Maori culture, and New Zealand's somewhat shady history in the area of race relations in the past. So that is Better the Blood by Michael Bennett, and that arrived from Book Hero promptly, and yeah, I think I'll be using them again. Okay, from Amazon recently, this one, you may have seen the review I did of it a couple of days ago on the channel. This is The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen, 130-year-old supposedly horror novel with all sort of mystical, supernatural overtones and a little bit of the seedy late Victorian era. See the review if you want to know more. It's a thin 106-page book put out by Crystal Lake Publishing, who are republishing a lot of this old stuff along with a lot of new genre material. So that is The Great God Pan. And the other book I reviewed recently on the channel, just the other day, was this one, Squat by John Sathran. Now this is the last book I bought from Mighty Ape, the now much degraded, it appears, Mighty Ape, and it kind of got caught up in the changeover of their systems, and I had ordered it in advance, and it seemed to sit there, the order doing nothing, and then suddenly they took my money and shipped it to me after, after about a month and a half delay. And this is John Safran's latest book, Squat. The basic précis of it is basically that John Safran finds an abandoned mansion owned by Kanye West or Yee or Yeezy, whatever we're calling him now, and he basically lives there and writes there for a week. And in between the description of his experiences in the abandoned and rapidly falling apart mansion, he recounts interviews with people who are kind of sort of vaguely connected with Kanye West, and there's a strong topic on religion, race relation, and modern America, basically. I'm a big fan of John Safran's previous work, his TV, his radio, his other books. This one left me feeling a little weird. It's a little strange, a little unusual. John Safran himself seems to be kind of unraveling a bit in the text. I'm not sure if he kind of embellished things to make it look like that, to kind of fill in the space between the admittedly very thin squatting parts, but yeah, he's still entertaining. He's got a great turn of phrase and self-deprecating, but I just found this one a little unusual. I wanted to go along with it. I kept thinking, well, why are you doing this, John? Why are you putting yourself in this danger? And he seemed like his mental and physical health was suffering as a result. So that is Squat by John Safran. I did a full review of this the other day on the channel. You can find it there. Just a little warning on that video. I was using the DJI mic like I'm using right now, and I had it mounted in a stupid place within my neck of my t-shirt, and I hit it, and it didn't really recover until halfway through the video. So the sound quality is not 100%, and there's a kind of crackling which I suspect is the horrible sound of my chest here rubbing against the microphone. So if you can put up with that, you can view my video on Squat. It's an okay video, I suppose. I did consider seriously redoing it, but in the end of the day, I don't think enough people really watch this stuff for me to be perfect. If you're watching these videos, you know that I'm not the slickest producer of videos, and yeah, I mean, if you're interested in the book, watch the video. If not, never mind. Okay, from Arty Bees, the big Wellington book purveyor. It's always good to look at their website. I'll put a link below. Their front page comes up with their latest catalogued acquisitions, and there's always a gem or two there waiting to be plucked out by the canny reader. You can find books which are very hard to find, books which actually are worth quite a lot. They don't seem to discriminate. They put them all out online and you can buy them. And so from Arty Bees, I picked up this one, Nick Hornby's The Complete Polysyllabic Spree, which is a collection of columns that Nick Hornby wrote for a magazine called The Believer in the early 2000s, I think 2003 to 2005. And The Believer was a kind of cultural magazine which had, according to the introduction, had one rule is basically that you don't criticize the people you're talking about, which seems a little restrictive. And basically Nick Hornby wrote columns for this magazine on the topic of books and what he was reading, but instead of delving deeply into the books themselves, he kind of concentrated on why he was reading the books and how one book led him on to another book and so on. That's an interesting idea. I've often thought about doing something like that myself, so I was interested enough to buy this book. Yeah, it's actually quite an interesting thing how one book, a chain of reading, can develop from a kind of random interest in one thing which will lead you onto another thing and onto another thing, and soon you've bought a dozen books which you previously wouldn't have thought that you would be interested in, and you may not even read half of them. But yeah, so Nick Hornby recounts his experiences along those lines in this book. It's, like I said, it's a collection of columns, so the chapters are short, and it shows his love of books and reading, which is something we all should enjoy if you're watching this channel. Next up, excuse me, my nose is starting to clog up, which isn't great viewing for you, I'm afraid. Next up we have this book, Victoria's Century 1800 to 1906 by David Cannadine. I'm not familiar with the author. He looks like a respectable gentleman on the back there. And this is basically a history of the UK, or the British Empire as it was, for the entire 19th century, and how it grew its empire and all the triumphs and tragedies and what have you. Apparently it's warts and all look, but who knows, there's books all this type, there's all sorts of biases involved, so, but you know, it must go into quite a lot of detail. There are maps and there are photographs or illustrations at least. Let's see, what have we got? Lots of paintings, looks like wars in Afghanistan, etc. All that stuff that the novels of, now I've forgotten the name, George MacDonald Fraser's character, never mind, it will come to me. Flashmen, that's the one. All the conflicts that Flashmen fought in the 19th century, well, in fictional accounts of them, what they used to call Britain's small wars. It looks like a lot of them are recounted in this book, along with all the social and political stuff. So that is the Victorian Century, 1800 to 1906, by David Cannadine. Okay, and lastly in that lot from Arty Bees was this book, which, Classical Mythology. The description read like it was a kind of concise digest of all the big name myths and legends of Greek and Rome and ancient world, and when it came, it turned out to be, it looks like a tertiary education textbook. I was probably stupid enough not to realise that's what it was, but it is a good repository of all that type of, all the plots and characters and whatever of famous myth and legend. And as a bonus, it is a well-thumbed book, and I'm trying to find it in here. There are sections that the student who owned this have highlighted in the text, and so that's always fun to find. I haven't found any annotations yet, but I haven't had a good look for it. There's actually somebody's long hair caught in the pages, so I assume it was a young woman who was a student who was studying classics who actually previously owned this. Who knows? Anyway, I'll keep it as a reference, and there's a lot of interesting illustrations in this one as well, just for a little browse maybe perhaps. So lastly, in this whole month, just yesterday, this one arrived from Arty Bees yet again, Colonel Gaddafi's Hat. Now this is a kind of memoir by the broadcaster reporter Alex Crawford, who worked for Sky News in the early to mid 2000s. And it focuses on basically what was called a revolution or uprising in Libya in 2011-2012, where Colonel Gaddafi, who had ruled in a kind of deranged way for about 40 years, finally got his comeuppance, and with the support of Western forces, the people rose up and toppled his regime. And Alex Crawford was basically a reporter who covered that event, and this is her memoirs of those times, and I've seen this referred to as one of the best reporters' memoirs, reporting in a dangerous place, living in a dangerous place type thing in the recent years. Well, saying recent years, this book is from 2012, so it's over a decade old, but I've read the first couple of chapters and it's exciting stuff. She has a great way of describing the kind of contrast between her domestic life, family, friends, and the out-and-out terror of being in a war zone, basically. And there's all the little details like that make this really interesting. What exactly it has to do with Colonel Gaddafi's hat, I'm not sure. There's a clumsy kind of Photoshop on the cover. And anyway, I used to lap this type of thing up about 20 years ago with all like the world's most dangerous places and all those type of books, and so it's always an itch to get back into reading that type of thing. Kind of broadens your horizons, really. Well, imagine that it does anyway. So that is Colonel Gaddafi's Hat by Alex Crawford. And I think that is the lot. So it's kind of a short and sweet book haul this month. And there, I will leave it there, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.